Welcome to another edition of Self-Defense Across America. All right, we're going to take a look at some defensive use of a firearm incidents from this past week. And we're going to start in Livermore, California. And this happened at the East Bay Firearms. We have an adult victim who was unharmed, and our suspect was a 28-year-old male, and he was killed. And this looks like a gun shop robbery or burglary. A gun store owner fatally shot a man trying to rob the store Sunday. The name of the suspected robber, 28-year-old Redwood City man, was not released. The fatal shooting happened about 2:30 p.m. Sunday at East Bay Firearms. In a news release, police say the preliminary investigation indicates the man killed entered the store acting suspicious and wearing a mask, a hooded sweatshirt pulled over his head and gloves. According to a witness, he was attempted to rob the store by taking a handgun being handled by a customer while armed with a hammer. The gun store owner, whose name was not released, fired 2 shots from his own handgun, fatally wounding the man. Police and paramedics performed life-saving measures, but the man succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. The gun store owner was cooperating with the investigation. At this stage in the investigation, police said it appears that the shooting was a case of self-defense. 5 customers were inside the store at the time of the robbery occurred, but were not injured. A man answering the store's phone Monday would only say, "We're not making any statements." Police said that they are still trying to determine how the man got in the store, as no vehicles in the area have so far been linked to him. Livermore Police Criminal Investigation Bureau is continuing the investigation, and detectives are following up on leads. So this 28-year-old guy, he goes in there and tries to rob a gun store with a hammer. Now, anybody that's ever been inside a gun store knows everyone that works at a gun store has a gun on them. And they have, full freedom to open carry inside that gun store. And this guy goes in with a hammer and thinks he's going to be able to rob the place. I'm surprised there's actually not more stories of stuff like that happening, because that's just stupid, but people try to rob gun stores all the time. All right, let's go to Wake Forest, North Carolina, where our victim was unharmed and our another suspect killed. 34-year-old Stephen Dallas Contestable. He was killed, and this one looks like a home invasion. According to police, Contestable, age 34, was attempting to break into a home along the Abercrombie Road when he was confronted by one of the homeowners, who is a legal gun owner. The homeowner gave repeated verbal warnings before shooting Constable, who had broken several panes of glass on the door while attempting to gain entry. Based on the results of the preliminary investigation, no charges have been filed against the homeowner. The information below was distributed today at 7:57 a.m., so a couple hours. The gunshot victim died as a result of his injuries. This remains an active investigation and no further details are available. The following information was distributed at 4:40 a.m. At approximately 3:20 a.m., Wake Forest Police... Okay, this just keeps going back, like they're adding more to the story. So basically, some guy tries to break into a house. The homeowner, who's legally able to carry a gun or own a gun, gives him a couple warnings, and that doesn't work, so he ends up shooting him. And that's a case of self-defense. Okay, Lehigh Township, Pennsylvania. And we got a 25-year-old male victim was unharmed. And our suspect is 56-year-old David Feliciano. He was injured and arrested. And it looks like he was a felon in possession of a gun. Pennsylvania State Police announced Monday an investigation into a shooting that occurred on Sunday in Carbon County. According to the PSP Hazleton, troopers responded to Buck Mountain Road in Lehigh Township for a reported shooting. Investigators say an argument ensued between David Feliciano and a 25-year-old man over family matters. Troopers say when the argument escalated, Feliciano, who was holding a revolver, fired at least 1 round into the air, then pointed the gun at the man, who then retrieved his firearm, which he legally owns, and fired 1 round, striking Feliciano in the arm. According to PSP, the man immediately gathered his family, left the area, and called troopers to provide his location and render his gun safely prior to law enforcement arriving. Investigators say Feliciano was discovered to be a person not allowed to legally possess a firearm. He was transported to the hospital and then to Lehigh Valley for further treatment. Feliciano faces charges of person not to possess a firearm, recklessly endangering another person, and simple assault by physical menace. Although this is an ongoing investigation, law enforcement says this is an isolated incident and there's no threat to the public. So these guys got in some kind of argument. This is this kind of stuff that happens all the time. You know, arguments that, 50 years ago you'd get in an argument with somebody and you maybe get in a physical fight and you'd punch the guy a couple times and walk away. And now it's, you got to, put a couple bullets in them before you can walk away. I mean, this is back it's getting back, this is probably a bad comparison, but it's getting back to like the 1800s when you had the little shootouts in the street and they'd, meet at high noon and stuff like that. I mean, people, this is where the gun stuff is going, is people, they're not even trying to de-escalate a situation. They go straight for the gun and let's shoot and let's, end it right here. All right, now we go to Chicago, Illinois. We have an adult female who was unharmed, and our suspect is a 41-year-old male, and he was killed. And a woman fatally shot a knife-wielding man early Sunday in Morgan Park on the far south side. The shooting happened around 12:45 a.m. when a 41-year-old man, who the woman knew, approached her with a knife inside her home. The woman then pulled out a gun and shot the man 4 times in his torso. He was taken to Christ Medical Center in Oaklawn, where he was pronounced dead. The woman wasn't injured, and a handgun was recovered at the scene. So the guy, it sounds like he was already in her home. She knew him. He was in her home, but she must have had her gun on her, or she was right by her gun when the guy came after her with the knife, and she was lucky she had it, because otherwise that would be a totally different situation right now. All right, Wake Forest, North Carolina, at Lowe's Foods. We got an adult male victim who was unharmed, and our suspect is an adult male, 35-year-old Mirza Zukanovic, however you say that. And this looks like it's a domestic situation as well. Police have arrested a Raleigh man accused of shooting at 2 people in a Lowe's food parking lot. Officers responded to a shots fired call at the supermarket around 9 p.m. and spoke to 2 people who said 35-year-old Mirza Zukanovic shot at them following a domestic-related altercation. The town of Wake Forest spokesperson said, police say Zukanovic drove away when a bystander who witnessed the shooting and has a concealed carry license fired his own handgun at the suspect. No one was injured in the shooting. There was no damage made to the property outside the store. Zukanovic was arrested a short time later when his car was involved in a crash on Stadium Drive. Wake Forest police charged Zukanovic with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill and 1 count each of discharging a firearm within city limits, driving while impaired, having no operator's license, failure to wear a seatbelt, and failure to maintain lane control. He was booked in the Wake County Detention Center without bond pending his first court appearance. So this guy, sounds like there was some kind of domestic dispute. And this Zukanovic guy had a gun on him and decides he's just going to shoot at these people that are having the domestic dispute. Or he was in the domestic dispute and shot at the other person that he was in the domestic dispute with. And then just some random guy who had a gun on him shot at him, and then he took off. More likely he was in the domestic dispute. I don't know, that one read kind of funny. He was probably in the domestic dispute with somebody else and then had the gun. All right, let's move on to another Chicago, Illinois. This happened at Walgreens. Maybe that's supposed to say Walgreens, I don't know. Our victim was injured. That's 26-year-old Lamont Morris, and our suspect is a 32-year-old male, and he was also injured. Let's go. 2 people were wounded in a shootout Saturday night inside an Old Town business on the north side just before midnight. A 26-year-old man was inside a business in the 1600 block of North Wells Street when a man he knew entered and pulled out a firearm after an argument. The 26-year-old man also pulled out a gun and both opened fire. He suffered a graze wound to the chest and refused medical attention. The other man, described in his late 20s, was shot in the chest, head, and abdomen. He went to Northwest Memorial Hospital. He's in critical condition. So can you imagine you're just shopping at this Walgreens store in Chicago, and then suddenly they just start shooting at each other. Someone that works there starts shooting at the other guy, and there's just a shootout inside the store. Let's stay out of Chicago stores. All right, Prince George, Virginia. We have an adult male victim who is unharmed, and our suspect is aged between 12 and 17. They're not giving his name or his age. He was injured, and it doesn't say what this one is. A homeowner shot a teenager, of course, breaking in, who broke into his Prince George home Friday afternoon. Just before 4 p.m. Friday, police responded to a home for a burglary call. A preliminary investigation revealed that the homeowners, a husband and wife, discovered someone inside their home, which led to the shooting of the teenager. Crime Center sources says that the sheriff's deputies were actively searching for the teenager when they received the call that he was shot. The teen was reported missing in Petersburg earlier Friday. He may be 14 or 15 years old. Following the shooting, the intruder was taken to the Southside Regional Medical Center. He is currently in serious but stable condition. Sources say he was talking and answering questions while hospitalized. The Prince George's Police Department is investigating the shooting, and no charges have been filed. So this teenager apparently was missing, and the police were looking for him, and then they get the call that he was shot. So some runaway or something like that, missing from, it doesn't say where he's missing from, but runaway, and he ended up getting shot breaking into a house. Okay, let's go to Laurel, Mississippi, where we have a 72-year-old Douglas Boler. That's our victim, and he was unharmed. And this isn't a family member, Jeffrey Boler, 42 years old, and he was injured. And this looks like a family, probably the son. A man is being treated for injuries after being shot by his father during a domestic incident in Jones County. According to the Jones County Sheriff's Department, deputies responded to a call of a shooting at a home. The Sheriff's Department said, according to reports, 42-year-old Jeffrey Boler was shot once in the shoulder by his father during a domestic assault. It was learned that Boler was believed to be intoxicated and assaulting the father, Douglas, 72, and his mother, Amanda, 70. Douglas shot Boler to stop the assault, making the Sheriff's Department consider the case of self-defense at this time. Boler was transported to the hospital in Laurel for treatment, according to the Sheriff's Department, and is facing a charge of domestic violence, aggravated assault. So this elderly couple, they're in their 70s, their adult son is abusing them, assuming the son does not live with them. Let's hope the son does not live with them. And it forces the father to have to shoot the son. And I imagine if it went down like that, this may or may not be the first time that something like this has happened, if the father went as far as to fire a shot off on his kid. Okay, Sanderson, Florida. We had an adult male victim who was unharmed, and there's another family one, domestic violence. An adult male victim who was injured. That's our suspect. Adult male, yeah, the suspect was an adult male that was injured in this whole thing. And it says son shoots father in Baker County domestic incident. So this one is a turn the other way. The son's shooting the father in this one. A Baker County man was flown by helicopter to a Jacksonville hospital after being shot by his son at about 12:47 a.m. Tuesday. Doyle Road in Sanderson for a disturbance, where they received another call stating that someone had been shot at the residence. So they called for a disturbance, and then they call again to say somebody had been shot. Detectives learned that there was a physical domestic disturbance at the residence between a husband and wife. The wife was allegedly being physically battered by the husband. An adult son who also lives at the residence intervened to protect his mother. The father and son then got into a fight. The father got into a vehicle and tried to run his wife and son over. The son got a gun and shot him. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement responded to the crime scene. At this time, the sheriff's office on Facebook, there were no arrests made at this time. Shooting investigation on Doyle the morning at 12:47. Okay, so, typical domestic abuse situation, and the son tries to intervene, and he shoots at the father who's trying to drive these guys over in the car, and at least it sounds like it all ended okay, and everybody's going to be okay. But this was a lot of domestic stuff today. This is a weekly video, so if you like this type of content, hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing. And I'll catch you next week.